Conference has just got underway and we'll be returning to Neil throughout the programme this morning. Here with a rundown of what else is happening, including more news from Afghanistan. It's good morning to Charlotte.
Thanks very much, Eamon. Good morning. And cuts to police budgets could harm the ability of forces in England and Wales to combat crime, according to the Chief Inspector of Constabulary. Sir Dennis O'Connor also says at present only 1 in 10 police officers is free to tackle crime at any given time because the vast majority are either off work or tied up on other duties. Kitty Logan has this report.
There are familiar
consultants.
And if you've ever ended up scratching your head over your tax affairs, well, now efforts are being made to make the tax system easier to navigate with the creation of an Office of Tax Simplification. The Chancellor, George Osborne, has tasked the new unit with making the 11,000-page tax code both shorter and simpler.
That would be a nice bedtime read, wouldn't it? 11,000 pages on how to pay your tax.
I like the fact they can just sort of add it into the title of a department and it immediately makes it more simple for people to work it out.
Well, that's a good idea. If it works, the Office of Tax Simplification.
Yes.
We should have everything simplified.
Apart from the title of the department.
Apart from us. Are we still twittering?
We are.
Do we do that?
I tweeted welcome back to you this morning
already.
Have you? Yes.
Hope you get a response. Positive one. Right, Twitter us with your comments on the news that we deal with, and indeed what's on the front pages of the paper, since we have a look at those right now. And the Times, they've got David Cameron. Sky News Sunrise on a Tuesday morning. Good morning. Thank you for your company. Clemency Burton-Hill standing by to bring you the newspapers and her take on those very, very shortly. Very good to see you.
Nice to see you.
It's politics leading the news. David Cameron, he's in Washington. Our political editor, Adam Bolton, and we'll have Clemency Burton-Hill take on what Adam's talking about there. BP, Lockerbie Link, David Cameron in America, all that after Charlotte with the rundown of what else is happening.
Thanks, Eamon. And more on Afghanistan. An international conference on the future of the country has opened in Kabul in the last hour. And in the last few minutes, President Karzai has said he wants Afghanistan to be responsible for its own security by 2014. The conference is being attended by foreign ministers from around the world. William Hague and Hillary
this morning's newspapers by a few thousand pages. Clemency Burton-Hill to have a look at what's news. Very nice to see you.
Lovely to see you.
And we were talking about David Cameron in America, in Washington, and maybe whatever agenda had been hijacked by these American senators. They want to talk BP.
I think it's very interesting that he's had to backtrack on meeting these senators. Initially, he'd said no, he would send the ambassador. You know, he's the Prime Minister of Great Britain. He doesn't need to meet 4 senators to talk about this. But clearly, it's such a major issue, and anger is blazing, not least because of al-Megrahi's continued vitality and blooming health a year later. I actually remember being on Sky the day after he was released last year and looking at those pictures thinking, is he really going to be dead in 3 months? And you just had a sense that there was murkiness underneath. And of course, coupled with this, the revelation of this link between, or alleged link between BP and the Lockerbie bomber. I mean, whatever happens, it's revealing of some of the least savoury aspects, I'd say, of the way that Britain runs itself. If you remember, there was very much a sense of, this isn't our fault, you know, we had our hands tied, Scotland was making this decision from the British government. He's being released on compassionate grounds, you know, it's nothing to do with us. And there was David Miliband was adamant that there were no trade deals in place, whereas now BP have admitted that they lobbied the government very hard in 2007 and won this £550 million contract in 2008. Now, I feel quite sorry for David Cameron in the sense that he was in opposition when all of this was going on, but nevertheless, it's escalating, certainly.
So you think, despite what the previous administration here said, you believe that the government then lobbied the Scottish executive?
I think that what's at stake here is transparency. We simply don't know what went on behind the scenes. But it seems to be that the UK's courtship of Libya, basically since 2003, is playing some sort of nefarious role here. And I think that we absolutely need transparency. Now, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee want to hold us to account. It would be better, I think, for the UK to be launching its own investigation. But I think whatever happens, David Cameron cannot take this anything less than extremely seriously.
Let's go to the front page of The Sun, and there'll be an investigation launched between this couple to find out why this black couple have had a white baby. Now, they say this is a miracle, basically, isn't it?
Well, it's extremely unlikely, put it that way. Black parents with no history of white parentage going back as many generations as they can possibly find. They're from Nigeria, given birth to this bouncing, blue-eyed, blonde-haired baby.
Well, could this baby be an albino?
No, they're saying it's absolutely not an albino. So Professor Brian Sykes, who's our top expert on genetics, he's at Oxford University, has said that it's completely extraordinary and unprecedented. I just think this raises such interesting questions.
Gosh.
I read a very interesting book recently called Who We Are by
Yes.
Gary Young, and he has a whole section on you know, the classification of race in places like South Africa and how, you know, essentially you look at a skin colour and it's skin deep, and I think this is just going to raise very, very interesting questions as to what black really means. I mean, people say, is Barack Obama black? Is he white? I just think this sort of raises fascinating
certainly been a
questions.
surprise in the delivery room as that little deer
absolutely,
popped out.
and as Professor Sykes pointed out, even if there were white genes back in the generations of this family, for her to come out with blonde hair, it's just blonder than most blonde
babies. Couldn't be the
babies.
hospital mix-up, Penny.
It just does seem very bizarre. I mean, you don't, you know, it's perfectly understandable that the parents would look at her and think, is she ours?
So a white
anyway.
couple then could have a black baby.
Could do.
Yeah.
And I just think it makes us all realise that there's nothing in our skin colour. We shouldn't be thinking about these things.
Here's a health story in The Guardian, and this is about a gel which could have the risk of AIDS infection.
This is terrific news in terms of progress on preventing AIDS, and what's really significant about it is it puts prevention in the hands of women. Now, obviously, in places like South Africa, which was where this study took place, women often don't have any control over their men in terms of sexual practices and sexual relations. So this study allowed women to use this gel before intercourse, so basically to take matters into their own hands.
And it seems to work.
It's had extraordinary results. When used properly, it's cut cases of HIV infection by 54%. So it is really significant in terms of...
Now, do you own animals? Do you have an animal? Do you have cats or dogs?
No, I'm actually, as you can tell from this next story, I'm probably going to get lots of angry emails from people who are cat and dog lovers.
No, why? It's simply about relaxing your cat.
I just think in this moment, I was fascinated. Today, two stories. One about cats relax listening to meditation music.
Yes.
And one about dogs needing ice cream in the very hot weather. Now, is it just me, or are we going balmy in terms of mollycoddling our pets?
I'd like now to ask a dog owner what she feeds her dog.
I don't feed her ice cream, but I do give her ice. I do give her ice cubes, actually. Right. You know, it just helps cool them down.
Am I just incredibly heartless? And I think that maybe there are more important things to be worrying about than whether your cat is listening to meditation music to relax.
It depends how horrible your cat is. I mean, if you wanted it to calm, yes, maybe it needs it. So to make your cat relax, you put on meditation music.
You put on meditation, yoga meditation music,
and feed the dog an ice cream.
There you go.
In the hot weather. Or a poke, as we call them in Northern Ireland, which means something apparently very different in Britain. Thank you very much indeed. Top stories. Clemency's going to be back in an hour's time. Let's have a look at the top stories.